right, all you devils, how we doing out there? Sam here with you, and we are Friday the 20th. It's probably our last video update here, certainly last Bitcoin update before the end of the year. We'll be taking a little break next week, as I'm sure many of you will. And sorry for the late start here to members. I think, as you guys know, there's just a tremendous effort going on behind the scenes to get what we're calling version 2.0 of Trade Devils University out and into the market and available to all sometime in January. So I'm really excited about it. It is just a quantum leap from where we are now, just in terms of how we communicate with members, how we've reorged all of the course content. The belt structure is really being fleshed out, and I'm so proud of it. I can't wait to show it to you guys. So you can be looking for that in January, and if you're watching on YouTube, we'll be sort of showcasing it throughout the course of January as we get more and more pieces that we can demonstrate and show. So that's all coming in January of the new year. Now we're going to do, so I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive here, but there's so much going on with Bitcoin here. We're probably going to do this in part 1 and 2, and I'm going to leave part 2, which will be a deep dive cyclical analysis of Bitcoin, to one of my partners here, Sensei Hove, that you guys are, of course, all know, members all know, but if you're watching on YouTube, he's a frequent contributor on our Twitter feed. So I'm going to come back to that in a second here, but I need to show you something because this is a bit of a problem, right? So currently we have somewhat of a scam fest going on with us, and so I want to alert, particularly, it seems to be focused on our YouTube subscribers. So let me show you this. So this is what they are doing here, all right? So somebody, well, let's get this here. So I've blocked out here. This is from a member. So if you're a member and you're receiving this, or if you're a YouTube subscriber, they seem to be going after YouTube subscribers. And what they're doing is they're taking a title of one of my videos, and they're putting that in the headline, and they are emailing here with signing it with my name, amazingly signing it as me, thanking you for all of your support, and as a special thank you, we'd like you to reply to this email, and we're going to send you detailed information on a much easier way to make all sorts of money on your crypto investments. So note here this is what makes it obvious here. So what they've done here is they've taken the name Trade Devil and they've added an S to it. So it's plural, trades with an S, devils@gmail.com, right? Obviously not us. But what's happening is, so a member sent this to me, and he said, hey, is this you sending this? And we didn't spot it until we saw what they were using in the email. So he replied to this. So, right, what they're sending back to you is some complete bogus bullshit, scammy thing here. So it involves asset transfers, and it's, again, signing it, Merry Christmas to you and your family from me. This is not us. This is not me. I didn't write this. It's the same scammy thing. This is the kind of crap. Gives crypto a bad name. I hate to see that. It pisses me off. They're using me to do it, and they're going after our subscribers. So if you get something like that, one, we don't email our subscribers, but if you get something and at first glance it appears to be from us, to take a close look at that email address. We are not doing any promotion like that. So I just wanted to make you aware of that so that you don't get into a problem there, or mistake that is from me or from my team here. Okay, so that established, and you put on notice there. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. Okay, so now we're going to come over here to the hard right edge. But before we do that, it's a bit of a tease here. With regard to what Sensei Hove is going to take you through here, but I'm just going to focus on the little section here, because this really, as we sit here, and I've got all the history I can get here, and I'm over on the Brave New Coin Liquid Index because I get about a month more data than on Bitstamp. I can get the absolute lowdown here in October. Bitstamp, it's in November, so you can get a little more data here. Now, so Elliotticians are going to differ on this, right? So it's an interesting puzzle. And again, Sensei Hove will take you through this in more detail. But here the real question is, and this is going to be sort of an important point here for where Bitcoin is headed, certainly in the longer term. So it really comes down to this section here. All right, and we're going back from the end of 2011 to the end of 2013. How are we counting the long-term right? Now, of course, I'm in log scale, right? You can't count it in linear, so you have to go to log scale. Well, here's the key to the whole puzzle. So it becomes a question here. Let's see if I can do this. If I do it this way. All right, so let me put this back on. So here's the first thought, which is very much what the so many of us have been viewing, is that we completed an impulse here. And now this is what makes it even trickier here. So let me put the subdivision pardon me here. So we'd have this. So we'd have a potential. This is the 1, this is the 2. So do we complete up here? Is the impulse complete here, or perhaps not, right? So, and it comes down to really how you count this section. So if with that all on, 1, 2, I suppose there's a case that the 2 could be going lower here, but we have been operating on the assumption that with our low at 3,000, that this initial push here, which certainly can be counted as an impulse, is giving us the 1, 2 before we go higher. Now, if I take that out of log scale, that makes perfect sense, right? So you look at it, and here I'm just going to use the lowest low that we can get here, right? So we're between the 786, the 887. So immediately, given the depth of that retracement, you're thinking 1. Right? 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? Makes perfect sense. And not so fast. All right, let me go back into log scale here and reset here. Bear with me here while I kind of tried to set this up here so I didn't have to redraw everything. All right, is that 1, 2? All right, well, let's consider the alternate. All right, so let me take those off, and let's consider it this way. This certainly, let's get this off. This certainly is a valid count. All right, let me get the subdivision here. All right, so we have, pardon me, the larger degree. If we count this as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we put in the 1 here, right now, so that would be the 1 going in. Oh shit, what's my date here? So this would be the end of November of 13. If that's the 1 and that's the 2, then this is all the 3. And this, well, of course, we have the potential that this is the 4. Or there could be something, we could have, where's my little tool here? Possibly something along, triangle-ish before we go up. Something along those lines here is certainly very reasonable and very valid. So is this the 1 or is this the 1? Now, you take it out of log scale, right? Different story, even if I pop it up to auto, right? So now you're looking at this going 3, 4? Really? 1, 2 of 5? Mighty deep for a 4, right? So it's kind of it's a puzzle here that we're not going to get the answer to for, this could take years for us to really definitively be able to quantify this. Interesting. All right, so let me put this back in log scale, right? There's a few things here that make this very it's interesting, right? So that's the best way to say it. It's interesting, right? But in terms of trading, right now, obviously we're going to get to the hard right edge. But if we're looking back historically, there's a pretty solid case for this to be 3 and 4. Either again could be a triangle of some sort here. Where, sorry guys. So potentially now, if this is going to trade as the 3, the 4 could actually be much deeper. The possibility we'd have some sort of a WXY would take us deeper down here. We'd be watching that pivot for the 1, 2 to stay impulsive, but that's, we're talking about 1100 here. Can't rule it out. Right? So it's a conundrum, right? So again, not to spend all my time here, right? So I'm already 10 minutes in working through this, because to work through all this subdivision, there's what we're calling the $1 million triangle. There is a case for this to have completed here, but this is something we have to be conscious of that, because we could certainly drift lower and still end up completing up here at, there's 90, 100, 200 in log scale, right? So your eye, it distorts your eye. We could go up here and finish that 5 at 200,000, right? And then the retrace would bring it back to 100,000, right? So it's still potentially, if this is going to go 4 or 5, there's still just massive gains ahead, right? Potentially there. But then you think, hey, if we're going to finish the impulse at 200,000, we're going to retrace to 100,000. Yeah, right. So it's some interesting things to contemplate there. And again, Sensei Hove is going to do that deep dive here. So let me show you. We put a little caveat on this. So he's a regular contributor as one of my senseis. Over on our Twitter feed, and this is a tweet that he's put up here, and we're kind of giving you a little incentive here. So per some discussion that we had this morning, we'd like to see this get up to 60 retweets or 150 likes. All right, so if you're a YouTube subscriber, obviously he'll do this for members, of course, right? So, but if you're a YouTube subscriber or a Twitter follower, we need a few more retweets here and some more likes, and he'll do it for everybody. All right, members, of course, you're going to get it, but if you're following here, and it's really kind of an interesting process to go through that wave by wave by wave and see where we end up here. Again, this could be, I mean, we're going out, this could be 2-3 years before we clearly can say what we have here. All right, so all of that said, and that deep dive being teased, now let's go over to the hard right edge. Okay, so here's our 3,200 low, and the premise has been that regardless of how we resolve here, we can certainly make a case that there's an impulse here and that we are correcting. So here's the impulsive wave, here's the retrace, so impulse, corrective, internal retracement, all the things that we talk about here all the time. Now, if this is going to trade, if we're going to get something like this, then this move here has to be relabeled as corrective, right? We can't have an impulse in the X wave. So it would put you back here just to kind of just comes full circle on that. You'd have to be trading this as some sort of an probably a couple of different ways you could count it, but you'd be there certainly is an impulse in here. So whether you're putting it A, B, or A, B, and working through the impulse here, you'd have to have a somewhat, the symmetry would be somewhat distorted. It would be unusual to have such a shallow A, B, and then such a massive C. But if you put it in the context out here at log scale, it's a possible count. Right, so again, this could be, as I was kind of just trying to draw this up, right? There's certainly the possibility that something like this is going on here, and we could, it could be an A, B, C, could be W, X, Y. It's just a question of, are we going to hold here? And then the other thought here, just to again square the circle here, if you will. Let me bring this back here. There's a trend line here that, of course, everybody's watching this trend line, the 15 low here, as we've come up and bumped into that. All right, so bulls are seeing the support being tested here, and again, we'll take a closer look at that over here on Bitstamp. But that's the trend line that we've just bumped into here, just so you get some large scale context of it. Now, okay, so 13 minutes in. Okay, so where we sit right now. All right, so this is an 8-hour on Bitstamp. A couple of things to note here. So all I've done is just wick off this range here that is consistent with the high volume nodes. So you're just looking here at our volume profile going, oh, okay, well, where are some obvious spots here where we might run into some support? And this is literally just carrying it right across. So I'm just taking that high volume node right here, right, and it's essentially splitting this range. Okay, so we have come down and put in a double bottom here. Now, could that be our pivot low? Yeah, of course, anything's possible, right? We could rip right out of here. It's certainly possible. The Elliott count that we've been working on the way down, a little suspect to that, right? So if I had to, right, gun to head, right, it seems like we have potentially now certainly a one more push down would complete the second ABC. So I know this is hard to see, but right, we've been through it enough times. If we're going W, X, Y, I thought I had that on there. Pardon me, guys. I thought I had it on. Okay, so we'd be going W, X, Y, X, Z. Here is what we'd be after to try and here's my X, ABC. We had that unusual X here, right, where we had the expanded flat. Right? Again, we've been through it many times here. So there's a reasonable case that whether this is the A pivot low, I'm leaning towards the double bottom being the A low, and we're if not here, there's some sort of a flat going in off of the double bottom because of the 3. I know we'll get there in a sec where you can see it a little bit better. But my bet would be that there needs to be one more push down. Now, what complicates this and makes it difficult for the Elliottician or just the analyst in general. I mean, if we look back here, right, as I was just saying, you can't count this in linear, right? You can't. Right? You can't get any subdivision. You can't count it that way. So you have to do it in log scale. All right, so let's come back here and look at this and go, all right, well, does that make sense? Well, with a low of 3,200 and a high of 14,000, we certainly have the range that would warrant looking at it in log scale. Now, I'm going to pop there in a second, but do take note of this. There's a couple of ways we could look at this. So this is the modified pitchfork here. I mean, is just framing the market remarkably well, right? And I'm just using the first 3 pivots. Right? It's just unreal how well the market is tracking that right into the tick here and the pivot here. This is the 1.5, right? So just halfway, right? You can see, right, the measure. It's just half going 1.5 from the set of median lines. We tag the upper pair, the warning line, you'd call it, here for the X wave, and then come down here. And now we've put in this double bottom here, splitting, and you can see it's tied to all of this range here. Previous support. Right, going to kick in as support. But really what I did was just take this little range here, which seemed to be the obvious spot to be looking for support once we broke the golden zone in linear. Now here, just to make it more difficult, all right, let's go to log scale. Again, the range warrants it. Well, now we're in log scale. We look at this, and you might look at that range, that support here, again, noting how we tag the high volume node here to the tick. Are we done? Well, interestingly, the median line stays very, very consistent. Now, because of the log scale, we don't get up here to get the 1.5, but you can see the parallel lines in the median line being support and resistance as we bounce around has framed this market beautifully. So as we come now here with these wicks now through the 50 in log scale, again, to my eye, it looks like we need to come up here and test. Now, I could get more bullish if we break this the upper parallel of the median lines. If we were to, we're going to need a big move, right, to do something like that. Big move, right? So even if we start heading that direction here. I mean, really, the structure right here, what are we talking, 8,400 here, where we'd be taking it, well, let's just draw it. Some of these lows right here, right? All of this structure here, what do we got there? That's pushing 9K. What the? Sorry, guys. Okay, so, you can kind of map the thing out, whether this is A, B, C, and we're doing a flat here before we come down, or whether this is the 4-5 and we got to do it this way. We do it this way, right, before we come down. The Elliott count would imply that we're not done yet. We don't have the Z. Well, we've got beautiful WXY, unusual but technical. X wave here, and then if we zoom in a little bit here, there's a similarity of waves here that's really interesting, noting the similarity of it. So if we look at this, where we fell over, let's open it up a little bit. Here, let me take let's take the pitchfork off. Okay. Now look at the similarity of these waves. So as we collapse here and do that, right? Let's use this. It looks very, very, very almost identical, right? This section, almost identical to this section. So as we fall over here, we get, if you work backwards, it's like, it looked like, 4-5, 4-5, but what we got was a B wave into a C wave. So you can see the possible repetition there. If this is, because you were thinking, I know, sorry, hard to see. So you were thinking whatever this was the 4 into the 5, right? That was the thinking at that time, much like we're doing here, right? So you're thinking, well, fuck, I don't know where the way, but this 4 into the 5 looks pretty solid. But also note what happens here. We go A, B, C. Now this looks certainly more like a 3, so thus the thinking that this is not a completion of whatever's here. We're still in a corrective phase, so there needs to be one more push. Now look what that would do. It would potentially now puts us down here in the mid 5s, but we'd be at golden zone in log scale. Right, and we'd be running into the next area of support, which would, right, just looking at the volume profile here, which is all of course going to be tied to that. So, right, interestingly here, note the little low volume node before we get to the golden zone. So if there's any front run likely to happen, that's a spot where you might anticipate it. Just kind of coming over, right? That's something like that. If we came back to test that little low volume node there would be a point of interest. So do we get there? Well, right. So I'm a bull. I'm long. I'm not selling here. I'm looking for opportunity to buy, to add. We've had a couple of spots where we added, and with very modest amount of risk, where we got stopped out, right? So the first one, right? So it was breaking here, right? So we had looked at possibly some action here as a start of it. Excuse me, but we got stopped out, right? Very small loser, but a loser nonetheless, right? So we got stopped out working off of linear scale. All right, so see the temptation, right? It's a struggle, because if you're a bull, this looks much more promising in log scale. Right? If you're not a bull, or if you were a bull, right now you're a little more concerned because we broke the golden zone, and algorithm's not going to do it in log scale. They're just going to work linear. So you got a battle between just what's here, the structure, the fib swings, and approaching it as an Elliottician, and an Elliottician is going to put this in log scale because of the range. Leaves you with a bit of a conundrum here. What I can say here is that I do not think this is our low. Holy shit, would I love to be wrong. I would love to see this turn into something like that, right? Would love to see it, but if you're using you've got your Elliott hat on, it's hard to see how we could fit. Even though there's a 5 here, you'd have to reorient the entire count to have this being the finishing 5. I've been through multiple alternates, talked to all of my Elliott Wave wizards, and we've got a lot of them between senseis and members. It's very hard to see a count that would not violate rules or would require some intense force fitting to get this to finish down here. Tough one. So what to do? Well, I'm not comfortable saying we've got a low, let's take the first retracement. Even if we go down, let's try the 2 hour. Let's try the 2 hour here. All right, so I'll come out of log here because it won't matter as much here. And let's, bear with me a sec here. We'll hide that. Okay, so if we look here, I'm going to push this off to the side. Right, so the temptation is to think, okay, 5 is in. Which already, right off the bat, I'm a little suspect of that, right? Because this certainly looks like 1, 2, 3, right? Which would imply much like this, right? Because we were back here. If I put that, back on here, we were thinking. I remember thinking this, right? I remember doing the video saying, looks like, could we have finished here? Because we had made that rip, and as we retraced, it was like, okay, well, maybe we got to dig it out there. If that was going to go 1, 2, but that's not what we get, obviously. So now you're back here going, oh, well, that makes a whole lot more sense, because you can see the ABC here into the B, the expanded B wave, before we rip for the C. So that has me back here looking at this going, boy, sure does look similar. Well, you can't see through it, right? This and this look awfully similar. So even if we did get an impulsive rip here, then you'd be back here doing it this way. You'd be doing this. You'd be putting the 5 here. You'd be, fuck. God, TradingView, please fix that. Then there's the A, there's the B. Now, it would still suggest that there was more to come. So then you'd be thinking that this was a flat, that I can work. There's a leading diagonal in there, right? So now you're thinking that. It still implies one more push down. Even if we so then we could just use some fib retracements here, knowing where we're likely to spot some algorithm participation. Now, whether they use this pivot or this pivot, I mean, we're within ticks, right? So coming back up here, right? We got to get through that, right? This is going to take a big. So what are we up here? Look at the low volume node there, right? So if we come up here, that's 9,000, right? Which we were just looking at. That would put you on the other side of the median line. So this is going to need. Oh God damn it! Trading view. That. So then you might take a little geometry here. Let's put that back into original. I mean, nothing says we do it here. Where that putting us, December 29th, right? There would be January 11th. Right? We could sit quietly through the holiday. You never know. Right? Something like that is not right. Look at this. Right? It could be over here. Right? We might do it earlier. Right? This is a bit unusual in terms of how to approach the median lines here. If I've got this. Not quite on that low, right? So something like that, we could get that upper edge here. Get it if I'm right on there. So not crazy, right? Looks very much like this, right? Do you see it? You get damn near, right? Pretty close. And this had that huge wick on the end of it. Pretty damn close. So something to be watching for, right? To get bullish, we're gonna need to get something substantial here that does that, right? So we get this, and that would have been you'd be looking, thinking, oh, okay, I got it. Okay, so there's the B. So now we start the C, right? You'd be thinking that, and you'd be thinking we're on, right? So at that point, it could be multiple things, right? It could be that we've just done that. This is the low, and we've done 1, 2. Or if this keeps going, we're doing 3, 4, 5, right? But if it does that, if we come down here and we do this, right? That's well, depending. We could have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So you got multiple ways this can go, right? And it comes back to where are we in the larger count? All right, it's tricky, right? Bitcoin always tricky. Always difficult technically, right? It responds technically, yet it's never easy. How about we say it that way? Never easy. All right, so knowing that we have those scenarios, do you want to be a buyer here? Let me get back to this. Oh, let's get back to that 8 hour. Okay, so looking at this. Let's pull that off here. So we've got this. Now, there's a couple other things here. Let me just zoom a little bit here just to kind of reinforce this, right? So again, it's suspect as to whether that's a completed 5 here, B going in, or whether or not, as I just had it drawn, we could be in a flat and the B is still yet to come. Either way, the implication is the B is still yet to come. Okay, so looking at this here, well, we got a couple of things. Oh, shit. Did I take them all off? Bear with me. Did I? But here, we can just redraw them. All right, so I'm assuming you guys have already done this, right? So we've got this pivot here. All right, so there's the swing low to the Y. Here we take it to the 50. If I go to the B low and I work from my X to X, let me get it right on that. All right, so here was the Y. Right, so I'm taking from the X, I'm working through the ABC that gives me the Y. Right, so we go in log scale here, we go right to golden zone. Right, we come down, we hit the algo target. You can see why that was. Right, so that was why we were looking to be buyers there. You recall, right? So when we were out of log and that was the golden zone. So that was part of the push there, thinking, okay, maybe we've got something. But now if we look here, oh shit. Yeah, let me take it off. Let's do it this way. Let's come out of log here. I think it'll be easier to spot. Okay, let me do it this way. So if I go, so looking from X to my low here. So from this pivot. Shit, I know I had it. Well, we could use, let's use Y to X. All right, so, and the other thing we would do, we'd take the length of this projected from this. Right now we're kind of down here back to the zone, but if I go to log scale, right at the 100. Questionable. So my view is because the Elliott is uncertain, and this could go multiple directions, I would take it one wave at a time, right? So if this is, I would be waiting to see what I'm going to get here, right? Are we going to get an impulse or are we going to get an ABC, right? And you won't know until we get up at this level as to whether we're going to go, right? And that would be breaking that set of median lines here that's so important, right? So we need to break this, and then to really drive it home, you're going to need to break this one, right? Got to get up here. That's what we need to really get bullish and say, okay, well, whatever the hell we had here, the low's in. So working backwards through the count, very hard to come up with a way that gets us to complete here. So right now, I don't think you get bullish until you see what we get here, right? So I mean, this could come here, we could roll over the weekend, right? There's no way to say, oh, well, we got to go up here and touch that. These are not inevitabilities here. But I don't think you can get bullish until we break that trend line. Right? I mean, that's just been, this set of median lines is framing the market just perfectly. So until we get up here, you've got to be defensive. So I wouldn't be adding here, even though you can talk yourself into, oh, okay, well, in log, we're right at the 50, and we came right to that potential support zone, and we got a reaction there. I don't think you can do it yet. So much as I'm dying to say lows in, I don't see it, right? I think what's more likely here is one more push down, and then we'd be down here in the mid fives. We'd be at golden zone, the lower parallel here. Do you see the confluence that we'd have there, right? And then kind of putting I'd stay this way. I do like this. So from here to here. Right, we're at the 100. If this is going to come down, next stop would be the 1272138. So we get this confluence down here of these two zones here. Let me get that. All right, so we'll do it that way. So we get this area here looks really nicely teed up as a potential low. So the expectation is here. So for short-term traders, yeah, there's a little pop there up towards, well, so the parallels here at 8,400. If you're going to get the full move there and get a golden zone to come back down here, now you're looking at a move to 9. So you've got the potential there. So if I do it this way, if that's the low, so coming here, A, B, C into golden zone really sets you up. Now look where the algo target would be. Right, a lot of confluence suggesting that that's the target to be heading towards. Right, so that's what I'm seeing here. My anticipation would be that the next move here is corrective. Whether this is A, B, and we're going into the C, or whether this is the A and we're going into the B, either way, it doesn't play for an Elliott count here to be consistent with rules and tendencies and guidelines to have us finishing here. Right, it just doesn't work. Right now, Elliott Wave is not necessarily universal law, right? Nothing says that this couldn't go here. Like that's Elliottians would be backing into the count somehow. There'd be a way to get this. So it's not that this is impossible. Of course, not what I'm saying. It's always about probabilities, right? That's all we get with Elliott Wave. That's all we get in trading, right? There's no certainty. But this area here is going to be critical to where we go next, right? So, well, shit, first we got to get up there. Right, and that's pushing, we'll call it 8,000 to 9,000 would be that window. We got to get through that, and then, right, I mean, again, it doesn't have to come down here. It could be right here where we bang into the median line again. I mean, that's possible. I mean, lots of ways that this can go. So I would be cautious about adding here. I'd be cautious if you're not already long. I don't think we're at a place to be adding just yet. Right, until we get some clarity as to what we're going to get here. Get rid of that. Until this gets clarity, the risk is too high here to just be a blind buyer here. Now, of course, you can accumulate here. There's certainly a valid thought being, listen, if I can get Bitcoin, between 6 and 7,000, that's attractive, right? Long term, very attractive. Even if we go back to, well, is it 3 or is it a 4, right? Even if it is a 4, you potentially have accumulation zone here. As long as this trend line holds, right? I mean, there's certainly the possibility here, as I said, right? So maybe it's done. Oh, we could have something along these lines, right? So we could have A, B, C, D, E, and then we go, right? So the 4 would come over here, possible, right? Again, I'll let Sensei Ho walk you through all of that in great detail. Members, you can look forward to that. And then just as a final reminder, let's get some more retweets and likes on this one here where he's talking about Bitcoin. We got a ways to go. 150 likes, pardon me, what do you say? Yeah, 150 likes or 60 retweets. Right, so get after it, guys. All right, there you go. Lots to chew on here. Going to be very interesting to see how we look coming into the new year, which is next time we'll do an update here. I wish I could give you more certainty here, but I'm unsure. Right. Long term, I'm not so unsure. But in terms of where's the next trade, if you're looking down at the 60-minute or 2-3 hour, I don't think it's there yet. This, back the truck up. All right, guys. I know I went long there. I appreciate my members very much. I can't wait to show you guys what we've got coming in TDU 2.0. To YouTube subscribers, we appreciate you guys as well. I wish you all very, very happy holidays, and we'll be back after the first of the year. All right, talk to you later.